Alright, everybody. The other day, I was just rolling around through YouTube Shorts, just scrolling through there, and for those of you guys that don't know, I do have a tendency to watch a little bit of gun content on YouTube, and when you watch gun content on YouTube, it starts to show up in your YouTube Shorts. And when you watch YouTube Shorts about guns, you start to get, like, gun media pushed to you in your YouTube Shorts, which consists of a lot of, like, conservative, pro-2A, anti-Democrat content, but, you also get, like, movie clips from, like, you know, gun-related movies, like Gun Bro associated movies. And one of the movies I've seen a few clips of on YouTube Shorts was a movie called American Sniper. And as much as I already had, like, my preconceptions about that movie and, you know, its marketing and everything, the clips that I saw on YouTube Shorts were actually somewhat compelling in regards to, like, you know, stoking my curiosity to get me to watch the movie, right? So I find a putlocker of the movie online because everywhere that I could find for streaming the movie was pay-per-view. And, you know, this movie stars Bradley Cooper as the main character, Chris Kyle, and it is based on a true story. I don't know how much of the story that is told in this movie is true. I know that there's a book that the movie is based on, but, like, yeah, I didn't read the book. I don't know much about the real Chris Kyle's story. I do know that he has said some things that are a little sussy-wussy. But besides that, the movie itself, I guess my most broad opinion of the movie itself is that it was actually pretty entertaining. If you're looking for, like, a good, entertaining military action movie that's based on a true story, it will not disappoint. It is pretty good. However, there are some things about it. And I honestly don't know which parts of them are, like, true to the story or not, that were a little interesting as far as, like, movie writing and directing goes, okay? What's the first thing that, like, okay, alright, I'll just walk us through the movie, alright? I'll walk us through the movie, alright? The movie opens with the main character, Chris Kyle, who is a Navy SEAL sniper, doing Overwatch for Marines that are clearing houses in, Iraq. They are, I believe they're in Fallujah. And he's basically, like, up on a roof, and he's doing Overwatch for Marine teams clearing houses for, you know, potential insurgents and whatnot, right? And the movie opens with, like, a lady walking out of a house with a child, and she hands the child an old Russian grenade, like an old surplus World War II Russian grenade, or Cold War Russian grenade. And the kid takes it, and, you know, Chris Kyle's up there with his sniper, and he's got his gun trained on this kid, and he's like, put it down, drop it, you little fucker, put it down! And you know, eventually it's very clear the kid is gonna throw it, and he shoots the kid right in the chest. But before he does, the movie cuts to the entirety of his backstory. From, like, the first time he shot a rifle, hunting with his dad as a kid, to, like, moving forward to, like, you know, just him joining the military, and he gets into the SEALs, he's doing the training, and, you know, he's going through all the hazing, he's going through, you know, all of that good stuff, you know, all the things you have to go through to become a Navy SEAL, which, to be fair, is very, you know, hellish, from my understanding. If any Navy SEALs watch my content, feel free to, you know, contact me, and you can tell the story of how you became a Navy SEAL on my stream. All thing, you know, as much as I am critical of American imperialism, I do have a certain level of respect for people who, like, you know, had no other option than to, like, join the military, or that was, like, their best option, and they chose that, you know, like, there's a level of respect I have for that. Regardless, he goes, he successfully gets into the Navy SEALs, and he ends up proving his worth with a long rifle, and he ends up being a sniper. Now, when he goes on his first tour, Xanderhall, do you realize that Chris Kyle died because he tried to take his schizophrenic friend who had PTSD to a gun range? That is how he died. That's the very vague end of the movie, yes. But you're kind of spoiling everything in my review here, Njord. Anyway, so basically, Uh, Chris Kyle on his first tour, you know, we see him make his friends. It's like the, basic war movie stuff, right? And in his first, like, night of doing, of shooting, he ends up, like, killing 6 people while, like, protecting the Marines down below. His first kill, of course, ends up resuming the beginning of the movie, where he ends up having to shoot that kid who's about to throw the grenade at a big squadron of Marines. And he shoots the kid dies, like, instantly, and immediately the woman who sent the kid to go throw the grenade goes to grab the grenade and then throw it herself, but he immediately shoots her as well, and the grenade goes off without harming any of the Marines. So, the movie moves forward, he ends up racking up a lot of kills, and people are like, dude, are you doing alright? Are you alright, man? That's, you killed a lot of people for your first time in one night, for your first time to kill someone, man. That's, a little bit rough, huh? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm doing fine. He's kind of playing up the macho-ness, clearly. But then we flash back again to his backstory, alright? And this is the first part of the movie that really, like, bothered me, I guess you could say. So at this point, I would say it's been a somewhat fair presentation of war. However, this is the first part of it that was, like, a little weird and chuddy to me, where I started to have my perception of the movie shifted in a certain direction, okay? So early on in the movie, during his the flashback sequence where he's, he's telling the story of how he joined the military, the reason he joined the SEALs was because he went through a breakup. Now, the way the breakup goes is he and his buddy, they're good old Texas boys, by the way, go to church and all that good stuff. He and his buddy are at a bull riding ring. Like, they're doing bull riding, only with horses. Like, they're trying not to get bucked off the horses. And, he and his buddy are driving home, and they're in the car, and his buddy starts trash-talking Chris Kyle, the main character's girlfriend, and talks about how her nickname in school was, like, I don't know, something about her supposedly being a slut, right? And, he's defending his girlfriend and all that, and like, oh, stop that. And they get back to his house, and he gets home with his friend, and they walk in on his girlfriend having sex with another guy, right? And Chris Kyle takes the other guy and, like, does, like, what you'd imagine he'd do, and like, grabs him by the neck and, like, throws him out of the house. And the girlfriend's like, stop, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh my god, you're so crazy. You're so crazy. What are you doing? Oh my god, you're fucking crazy, to her boyfriend who just caught her sleeping with another guy. And, after he kicks her out, he, like, sits down and he opens up a beer. And he's, like, laughing and kind of, like, joking about it. It's sort of like, oh, it's kind of rolling off me. And she's like, don't you realize I did this for attention? Don't you realize that's why I did this? Because you don't give me enough attention? And he just looks her in the eye and says, get the fuck out. And she's like, ugh! And leaves. And then he and his buddy just laugh and they drink beers all night. And then the next day, he joins the Navy SEALs. Stellar writing? Supposedly that's what happened. According, to this being based on a true story. But, yeah, that was the opening. Like, that was his motivation for joining the military, partially. Now, what really does it, okay? What really does it is when he ends up meeting a girl at the bar who does not like Navy SEALs. She thinks they're all douchebags. Has, like, she's, like, this stereotypical, like, liberal woman, right? And she's like, oh, my sister dated a Navy SEAL, and he was a real douchebag. And he's like, well, I'm different, right? And he's done his training and everything. And eventually they get together, and, he completely changes her perception of Navy SEALs, and they're really happy together. And then one day, on the TV, the unthinkable happens. What do you think was on the TV? Dramatic fucking music playing. It literally, the music and the, like, framing is like the scene where Thanos snaps away half of everybody in the universe in the MCU. Like, it was like hyper dramatic. 9/11. Yeah, 9/11 happens, and like it zooms in on Chris Kyle's face, and it's like, and it's like super dramatic. For real? Yeah, for real. I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. I'm completely real right now. I'm not even a fucking shred of irony here. So he proceeds to, like, it flashes back to the present, and we get introduced to the villain of the movie, who is this Syrian Olympic professional sniper, right? Like, and I don't even know if this guy was real. Like, maybe he was real, and he was there, but, like, a shit ton of this stuff is embellished, but the way that this movie frames it, I cannot believe it is real. There has got to be some serious, like, creative liberties taken here. Because the way that this Syrian sniper is framed in the movie is as, like, he's like Widowmaker, okay? He's this crack shot with this AK-based rifle, and he's just insanely good. And he jumps around from, like, rooftop to rooftop, just taking pot shots at people and just taking them out. Right? And he's like this extremely feared marksman, and, like, you know, he's the really scary, like, second hand to the true, like, villain of the movie, right? And you know, he's even got, like, this black eyeliner on, which is really bizarre, you know, makeup choice for the character, I guess. You know, there's definitely some, you know, racial and, you know, Islamophobic related, you know, leanings to the movie and its presentation, you could argue. Just a little bit, maybe a little. And so this character is like the villain, right? Like, he's the crack shot sniper to match Chris Kyle. And you know, he's the guy the only guy on the field that can keep Chris Kyle pinned down from doing his job, right? He's the villain, and it's, like, so dramatic and over the top, like, how they fight. It's bizarre. Anyway, the movie goes on, and God, I don't even feel like just explaining all of the details of the movie in whole. I'll just go to, like, I'll jump to points in the movie that, like, made me go, oh, come on, right? So, there's a point in the movie where Chris Kyle decides he wants to be on the ground with the Marines, right? So he takes up a rifle, and he travels with the Marines on the ground, clearing out houses. And one of the houses they go into has a friendly family inside of it. They don't know that at first. They're, like, really rough with them and everything. But eventually the father of the family is able to explain, you know, this is his home. You're welcome here. You are welcome here. But please protect us from the guy who's, like, the big bad in the region, who's leading all of the like, militant forces they're fighting against, right? He's gonna come and he's gonna kill us. You have to protect us because we've talked to you, right? And they're like, okay. Tell us what he looks like. Tell us where he is. What do you know? Give us all the information you know, and we'll keep you safe. They fail to keep him safe. He gets captured, as does his child, and he is shot to death. And then the leader of this insurgent group then proceeds to take a drill and drill into this child's leg and head to, like, torture him. It's like, and it's framed as if this guy is taking immense joy in it. So immediately I notice, okay, so we've got the framing of Chris Kyle, like, the most lethal sniper in American history. That's what this guy is, like, touted as. He's, like, crying as he has to shoot a child, right? Because the good old American soldier, the good old boy from out in Texas, you know, he's not a savage. Mind you, they call their enemies savages constantly in the movie, and this is never framed as, like, a bad thing. You know, he's not a savage like these people. He hates the idea of hurting a child, but he's forced to do it. But when the child's being tortured by the enemy insurgents, it's like, yeah, we love torturing children. We're doing this for joy. And it's like, okay, so they're just evil. The American soldiers are good guys, plain and simple, put into a bad situation, fighting straight up unarguable, straight up evil, right? That's the framing of the movie. Yeah, and right from that point, it's like very clear that there's some serious propagandistic elements to this movie. We continue on though. He serves a few tours. A few of his friends die. He has a few run-ins with this sniper. His pregnant wife is like, "Oh my god, are you dead? Are you dead?" Because like he disappears over the phone. There's gunshots. He comes back from all of his tours, and she's like, "Oh my god, please don't go back. Why do you have to keep going? You're clearly not here. You're here, but you're not," because he's got PTSD and all of that, and it's clearly fucking with him, and it's hurting his ability to be a good husband and father, and eventually he finds out his little brother has joined the military as well, and he's a Marine, I believe, and he's just not handling it well, and he ends up leaving. And he ends up having his best friend get killed by that Syrian sniper who's like a crack shot, and so eventually, towards the end of the movie, they're on top of a building, they're all pinned down, and they're trying to hide. They're trying to keep their position a secret, while a bunch of Marines on the ground are building like walls to secure an area. And the Syrian sniper is about 500 or about a mile away, about 2 miles maybe away on a rooftop. And Chris Kyle's got his rifle and he's like, "That's him. That's him. I know that's him. I know for sure that's him." And he's got our guys in sight. And his like superiors are like, "Do not take the shot. We are completely exposed if you do. Do not take the shot. We are surrounded. Do not take the shot." And he's like, "But that's him. I can hit him. I can do it." And his superiors are telling him not to take the shot, and he does it anyway. And it's like this super dramatic slow-mo shot, and he nails him straight in the head from like 2 miles away. Yeah, he defeats the guy who is like his arch nemesis, right? And he finally gets to go home, and he's like really fucked up because of his PTSD. So he goes to see a doctor, and the doctor's like, he almost kills the family dog is what he almost does. He's at like a birthday party, I think for his kid, and his kid's playing with the dog, and he like sees it as the dog attacking the kid. So he grabs the dog, and he's about to like crush the dog's head with a beer bottle before his wife stops him. Is like, "What? Stop! What are you doing?" And he goes to therapy, and he's like, what's eating up at you? What is your issue? What is causing you these things? What bothers you? And he's like, I wasn't able to save more people, is what he says. What was the thing that bothered him? He's like, well, there's a ton of soldiers here in this hospital who could really use help now, if you feel bad that you couldn't help more guys back then. And so he's like, okay, I'll walk with you around the hospital. And so he ends up helping like veterans who have been like maimed in war, right? And he takes them out shooting, and it's framed as like, very wholesome pastime of him giving these guys who probably don't have many friends or much of an exciting life anymore some level of camaraderie and whatnot. But what ends up happening is this really weird ending. The ending ends up being really weird. So everything's happy. He's talking to his wife and his daughter, and they're like, playing around. It's very, happily framed, right? It looks like it's going to be a happy ending. And then a veteran that he's working with shows up in his truck outside, and the guy's standing in the driveway, and so Chris Kyle leaves out the door to go get in the truck with him. And the wife is like looking out this crack in the door at the guy, and the way it's framed made it look like, oh my god, has she just fallen in love with this random guy, and this is just like a cliffhanger as to she's gonna cheat on him after all of this? Like, is the ending of this movie is the note this movie's gonna end on is like women bad? Like, are you fucking shitting at me? Because like the way it was framed was like when a girl sees a guy she has a crush on for the first time. Like that's how it was framed. I was like, no fucking way that's how this movie ends. Is she cheats on him after all of this? No fucking way she cheats on him and destroys their family. That's how this movie ends. No, that's not what happens. The slow-mo cuts to a fade to black screen, and white text comes onto the screen that says, Chris Kyle was then killed by a veteran he was trying to help later that day. And the credits just roll with like footage of his funeral where they like drive his hearse with a bunch of like police escorts down the highway and like a bunch of people carrying American flags. That's how the movie ends. No specifics on what happened. Apparently, he took a PTSD having friend of his to a gun range, and that's, you know, you can guess what went down. But, like, yeah. So she cheated on him and he died off screen? No, I don't think I don't know if she cheated on him, but it just looked like that's how they were framing it. But what I think they were trying to communicate was that was the guy who ended up shooting him, and she had, like, some sort of bad feeling about him when seeing him, and that's why there was this slow, long, sort of, like, longing look she had at the guy, specifically. It was a very bizarre ending. Zan needs to review more movies? I don't know, I feel like I'm bad at reviewing movies. I feel like I did a bad job of, like, explaining what happens, but, I mean, it is really something. If you guys want me to do, like, legit movie reviews, I can, where I, like, write notes and thoughts down, and that'll probably result in a much better movie review, but it's been a couple days since I've seen it. But, like, it's not a bad movie. Like, if you're looking for an entertaining movie, and what you're looking for is entertainment value and even, like, a somewhat compelling story, like, you'll like it. Like, I was rooting for Chris Kyle. Like, I didn't want him to die. The tense moments where he's getting shot at, I'm like, oh shit, don't want him to die. I don't want this guy to die. Like, the movie does a good job of making you care about the main character, but pretty much only the main character. And the reason for that is because it is propaganda. Like, it's impossible not to be sympathetic to the main character in the way that he is presented. Like, whenever Chris Kyle does something that you would consider to be morally wrong, like, the movie frames it as, like, he has absolutely no choice, and tons of people will die, and much worse things will happen if he doesn't do this horrible thing, like shoot a child, right? And he's, like, very upset about having to do it and everything. Like, the movie very much pushes you to the position that you can't help but be sympathetic about him, about what he's doing. That was a good review. Probably wouldn't watch it because I get really pissed off watching shows that are framed that way. Yeah, I can completely understand that. More propaganda movie reviews done by Xanderhall would be great, but I don't like watching propaganda movies. That specific one just interested me because I've always liked shooting with rifles. And so whenever I saw, like, the training scenes on YouTube Shorts, that kind of piqued my interest. That was the part of the movie I liked the most and wanted to see the most, was his training with the rifle. And it was pretty good. It was a pretty good movie. I mean, besides like, the propaganda, it was alright.